So the same crazed Muslim who attacked the police on the streets of Dublin last week is the same crazed Muslim who attacked Conor McGregor's pub, the Black Forge Inn. Very interesting that the mainstream media that covered the attack on Conor McGregor's pub chose to talk about Conor's political views, as opposed to the crazed Muslim lad who tried to end the life of one of our police officers and tried to burn down a huge premise in Dublin City. Interesting. Before we get into it, if you can do me a favour, if you can like the video, subscribe to the channel if you're new here, or even pop into the description and follow the links to my Rumble channel. As you know, I've been under attack recently. It's great to have a backup and it's great to get more people on board. So if you can help me out with that, I'd really appreciate it. Before we get into the story of Conor McGregor's pub and the crazed Muslim lad and everything like that, I think we should look at this story from yesterday. Conor McGregor's pitch to be backed by councillors is denied as Dublin says no. And it is as definitive as that, as you could imagine, from the mainstream media and from our elected officials, from a Fine Gael councillor. Deputy Mayor Pierce Dargan said that McGregor would spew hate-fueled rhetoric to the council. Interesting. Thank God we've got virtuous politicians like Pierce in power here in Ireland. He went on record over there with many of his colleagues at the Sunday World to state that he would not be supporting Conor in any way in his bid to run for Irish presidency. I also believe council time would be far better spent working to deliver for our constituents, especially in relation to housing, than hearing the likes of McGregor spew his hateful rhetoric. You can read the full piece here. So you have this virtuous World Economic Forum stooge who has went public against Conor McGregor this week, and of course people are loving it, absolutely loving it. To listen to someone like Conor McGregor for an hour rather than focus on getting things done for your constituents, I actually think people would be upset, asking why are you allowing someone like him to spew hate instead of looking at housing. He said that it would be a waste of time for McGregor and he would not get the backing of any council even if they allowed him to speak, so it would only give him a platform. I have a feeling what he would say would be riddled with hate-fueled rhetoric. My constituents would be upset if we allowed that to happen. Alright. World Economic Forum stooge has come out publicly talking about how it would be a waste of time for Conor to get up there and spew his hate-filled far-right misinformation. I had a little look at old Pierce here, and this guy has built his political career on talking about Somaliland. Yeah, you heard me right. He didn't build his career talking about Irish constituents. Absolutely not. He built his career by hyper-focusing on an Islamic country that is in conflict with another Islamic country all the way over in Africa. His news articles, his Wikipedia, his Twitter is filled with him talking about Somaliland. It seems to be a golden ticket for being elected in his locality to talk about an Islamic state in Africa. When he's not talking about that, he's talking about climate change ad nauseum, hosting events and doing webinars and hosting new reforms for climate change. And when he's not doing that, this dude is taking pictures of traffic lights that are broken and bins that are overflowing in his local area. So he's not exactly that hard-nosed politician who is asking the hard questions and getting things done for the Irish people. He's a loser. A pathetic loser. And of course he's got controversies involving the hiding of money, being part of a 1.2 million property that he didn't announce to his constituents and to his bosses. Very interesting indeed, and I guess he was on the phone and he couldn't make it or something like that. And you just slide in the fact that this dude's got his feet under the table with the World Economic Forum. Enough said. Of course Conor pushed back when he talked about high-ranking members of Fine Gael, Pascal O'Donoghue, private messaging asking for help. Then Conor stepped forward and donated 1.4 million of his own money for PPE equipment and delivered them personally during the scamdemic. So another hit piece on Conor McGregor by this absolute stooge, again taking the route of the ad hominem attack, going after Conor McGregor's personality and what he might say, and not actually talking about the replacement of Irish people and the fact that there's hundreds of thousands of Irish kids that are never going to have a future, never going to have a house, and that there's young adults leaving en masse now because it's impossible to rent a house or buy a house, all the while we keep importing foreign people to replace them. Them issues are not for old Pierce here. He wants to take a picture of a bin, talk about some Islamic country, and maybe talk a little bit about climate change. And these are the type of guys that we're supposed to take seriously, sneering at Conor, talking about Irish people first. Here we have a number of stories talking about a man in his 20s, nice and vague, who was arrested over the fire at Conor McGregor's Black Forge Inn. Man arrested Conor McGregor's Black 4 Gin, suspect arrested in prison over Conor McGregor's Black 4 Gin arson attack. And all these articles are pretty vague as you go through them, and every single one of these articles go on to talk about Conor McGregor's political rhetoric being outlandish and hate-filled. They go on to talk about dodgy civil cases where every dog on the street knows it was a fiasco. But none of them make the connection between the crazed attack on one of our own police force just last week in Dublin and this. And there is a connection. It's the same person. Surprise, surprise. Yes, the suspect arrested on July 25th, 2025 in the arson attack on Conor McGregor's Black 4 Gin in Dublin is also believed to be connected to a separate violent assault on a Garda, a police officer in Ireland. According to reports, a man in his 20s, already in custody at Cloverhill Prison for an unprovoked assault, was identified as the chief suspect in the arson case. Sources indicate that the individual is under investigation for both incidents. It's a pretty important detail to redact from the story, right? Surely that should have been the headline on 20, 30 of these mainstream articles talking about the Black Forge arson attack. Surely we should have better journalism in terms of a vague headline about a 20-year-old being arrested. The connection should have been and could have been made that it was the same guy who was setting fire to premises in Dublin. And as I said, the majority of the articles go on to pretty much blame Conor McGregor for his rhetoric. That's why his premise was attacked, because of his hate-filled speech towards migrants. Absolutely vile, duplicitous, disgusting and despotic behaviour from the media. No surprise there whatsoever. So let me know down below if any of that made sense, and if it did, maybe hit like, subscribe and share. And as I said, if you follow the links in the description, maybe pop over and give me a follow on Rumble just in case this is my last broadcast. Cheers.